Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. A very controversial question. You know, when we're asked about it, most of us might feel a bit anxious about this question, about answering it, about talking about it. But let's get straight to the point. The fact of the matter is that everybody asks themselves this question every single day. But then why is everybody so anxious about answering this question when they answer it themselves every single day? The thing is that when we're asked, the reason why we want to run away from this question is because this society claims that for the existence of God, there is no proof through logic or science, and there is no sign whatsoever that God can, should, or does exist. But let's just think about it for 1 minute. Here's the earth. You're familiar with this place, right? The earth. Let's say 1,000 years ago, a man out of nowhere, he gets up and he says that God calls you. I've been sent by God, and He's told me that you have to follow me, and if you follow me, you will see God. Okay? Some might say he is a madman, and people did say that he was a madman. But then let's say in a totally different part of the world, another man gets up and he says, God calls you. He also says exactly the same thing. A coincidence, or is there something in it? But then a third and a fourth man all get up and say exactly the same thing, that God calls you. Now, is that a coincidence or not? But forget 4 people. If I told you that 124,000 men came to this earth, all claiming one thing, that God calls you, then you would have to stand up and say that, hold on, something's up. Because 2 madmen never say the same thing. Now, coming back to the point of why we are so anxious about this topic, being Ahmadis, being those men that came in the time of the promised Messiah, Islam, and to have witnessed or have been able to be so lucky to have had these 5 amazing khulafa, who have answered this question in such a way that no other faith, no other organization could have dared or could have thought of even answering this question. So we should be the last people who should be worried about answering this question, because not only have they proved this topic through logic and science, but much greater, they've done something else. They've come and said that God still speaks. That He still speaks. Not only have they said that He speaks, but they proved through their example that He in fact indeed does still speak. And these are the things that we can use to at least tell ourselves that God should exist. And some of the books that they have written are before you. Just a few of them. And they're all dedicated towards answering this question, whether it's through logic, science, or through very examples of miracles and the acceptance of prayer. So, the existence of God. God is the creator, so we've got to prove Him through the creation. The universe. You see the universe, so many stars, so many galaxies, so many meteorites. But yet, it's so compact, but at the same time, so organized. Leaving the universe, if we just look at our own Earth, we see so many things in this Earth which are so amazing, even just, for example, mountains. Mountains serve a purpose. They're not just there for beauty, are they? They're there to keep the world literally together. Like nails in the ground, keeping the earth stuck together. Again, where did this organization come from? There must have been something, someone, or some cause that brought these things into existence. Now, if you ask an atheist that who was the cause of this, or what was the cause of this, of course they won't say that it was God. They will never come to that point because they're atheists, aren't they? But they will at least admit that we believe in something called the God particle. Now, what is the God particle? They say that, yes, in the beginning there was something that was there, and because of that something, everything came into existence. But they do not believe that that something is a conscious being. They do not believe that that power knows what it is doing. They say that it was, in fact, luck. The universe came into existence through luck. Now, how absurd is this? Because if we think about it, just like a deck of cards, we throw them into the sky, a deck of cards, yeah? And you expect them, when they land on the floor, to all land in order. Or, if you throw all the alphabet into the air, and you expect all of them to land on the floor in alphabetical order, how impossible does that sound? Because we're talking about organization here, you want something to land in an organized order. But I'm talking about 70,000 million stars, which when thrown up into the sky, need to land in order. in such a way where they don't collide, in such a way which doesn't disturb the organization. Where is the luck in that? Or, when we look at an example that one person once gave, he said that I was drowning in a river, and to my luck I saw a tree, but it wasn't the tree that was the amazing thing, it's what happened to the tree. The tree somehow crafted itself into a boat, right before my eyes. I was a lucky man. I grabbed into the boat, I climbed into the boat, and it took me to shore safely, and hence I was free. Now the man who was listening to this tale, he said, "You're an absolute madman, how can that even happen? A tree crafting itself into a ship. You're a madman." The person relating the story said, well, that's the whole point, isn't it? That is exactly the point that I was trying to tell you. You can't even accept the fact that a tree crafts itself into a boat. But you can easily accept the fact that an entire universe of 70,000 million stars, planets, galaxies, meteorites, suddenly came into existence. How can that be? Which all tells us that luck doesn't exist. A creator should exist. And moreover, that creator, not being a God particle, has to be a conscious creator. Now we look at the Holy Quran. 1500 years ago now almost, it was revealed. In a place called Arabia, where at that time, the most illiterate people of the world resided. They couldn't even spell science, I guess, let alone talk about what science meant. So at that time, if somebody mentioned anything slightly scientific, anything slightly to do with space or the universe, it had to be something from beyond. But the Quran isn't slightly scientific. In fact, it in detail explains the very creation of the universe. And the Quran is the very thing that which not only Muslims, but in fact Christians even have to say, it has not been changed to this day. So such a book, 1500 years ago, which mentions the creation of the universe and many other prophecies, could not have been the working of a mere man. It had to be the working of a conscious being that could tell the future, that knew what it was doing. So let's see what the Quran says about the universe. The Quran says about the universe that the heavens and the earth were like a closed up mass, and then we ripped them asunder. Now, I hope you all know about the Big Bang. The main theory about the universe's creation that the scientists and NASA will even say is that in the beginning there was a Big Bang. And what is that? That is basically nitrogen and hydrogen atoms, which were all compacted into a small ball. In the beginning, that's all there was, okay? According to the theory. And the gravity was so strong that it was keeping the atoms together. However, when the force of the atoms built up, and it was so strong that even gravity itself could not hold them together, those atoms, the links of those atoms were literally ripped apart. Because gravity could no longer hold it together. Hence, we had a Big Bang, where the atoms separated from each other, causing such a force, where a force which expanded and kept on expanding and even expands today. Now, NASA scientists, they even say that the Big Bang wasn't the end of it all. The force was so extreme that the expansion of the universe is still happening as we speak. The universe is getting bigger, as we say right now, and they call this the expansion. Now, what does the Quran say? Nothing different. It says, we have made the skies, and surely we are its expanders. Again, the theory goes hand in hand. But you may say that, okay, this has already happened. Does the Quran say something which hasn't happened yet, and we've already figured it out? Now, the scientists have a theory. How will the universe end? They call it the Big Crunch. Because the thing is, of course, the Big Bang had such a huge effect that the force forced everything out. But energy always runs out eventually. Meaning that this expansion one day must end. Now, how will it end? This is what their theory is, the Big Crunch. It's expanding, and it's going to turn up on itself. And the universe will literally eat itself out, rolling back on itself. That is called the Big Crunch. Now, what does the Quran say? 1500 years ago. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يوم نطوي السماء كطي السجل للكتب كما بدأنا أول خلق نعيده وعدا علينا إنا كنا فاعلين. What this means is that day we will roll up the skies like the rolling up of scrolls. And there is a scroll before you right now, if you don't know what a scroll is. rolling back up on itself. And we will return it to the same state that it was on the first day. So we're going to return it back to a small ball. Now how did this coincide with a theory which has come around in recent years? Something that was prophesied actually 1500 years ago. Okay, that's the creation of the universe, but that's not where the Quran ends. The Quran mentions so many more things. And now I'm going to need your help, everyone over here. And we're going to involve everybody here a bit, and let's see if you can figure out what's going on. All we're trying to prove right now is that the Quran needed a conscious creator. Here's a verse. I hope you can all see it. I'll read it out for you as well. Their skins will bear witness against them as to what they have been doing. Now, I don't want the Jami students to answer this. I want somebody else to ponder upon the verse and possibly think, what is this referring to? Something that has come about in the recent days. Anybody with their hand up? Or I don't mind picking anybody. Yes.
Does it mean like they'll look back at what they've done and
Okay, it could be that, but this is not what I'm referring to. So, okay, I'll turn to a Jami student. Can any Jami student please tell me what this could mean? Or has? DNA. Okay. Forensics. Fingerprint. This is exactly what it's pointing towards. Now let's, God forbid, one of you one day handles a gun and he commits a crime. One of the greatest ways, one of the easiest ways to get caught, I'm not telling you how to cover yourself up, but the easiest way to get caught is if they look at the gun and they find your fingerprints on that gun, then your fingerprints, your skin has literally borne witness against what you have done, the crime you have committed. This is what this verse is referring to, 1500 years ago. Another one, a bit easier I think, a bit more common, people might know. Would anybody like to have a guess? Yes.
Cloning?
Cloning, genetic engineering. Who knows that is? That's Dolly the sheep. She's dead now, apparently. The important thing about this verse is not only the fact that they will alter Allah's creation, it's one more thing. The very first time the scientists even thought about cloning, they had to get DNA from somewhere, didn't they? And where do you think they would have got that DNA from? If the answer's in the verse, and I've actually highlighted it, so go on.
sheep's egg.
From the sheep's ear. Congratulations. He's done out the jump, people. Dolly the sheep, the DNA was extracted from the ear. Now, 1500 years ago, nobody could have even guessed that. Okay? So this verse in itself proves that there must be a conscious creator. Somebody who knows what he's doing, what he will do, and what will happen. The next verse is a bit more difficult. I'll try and read from here. He has made the two bodies of water flow. They will one day meet. Between them there is a barrier. They cannot encroach one upon the other. There come out from both of them pearls and coral. A prophecy, a grand prophecy, which might not be known by many. But if anybody would like to have a guess, Nasir.
Is it the two seeds that don't mix up with each other?
Okay. Now here's a picture. But that's not what happened. Because the concept is something else, but this is what actually happened. There were two big seas. The South Pacific and the North Atlantic. Now, they're near Brazil. The problem was that in the beginning, sailors had to go all around Brazil and America to cross from the South Pacific into the North Atlantic. Okay? And what happened only a couple of years ago was that they built something called the Panama Canal, which was actually a shortcut between these two seas. Meaning that sailors no longer had to go all the way around. The barrier was broken in between, and they could easily cross from the middle. Now the North Atlantic is a place where you'll find loads of pearl, okay? And the South Pacific is a place where you'll find loads of coral. Again, was this a coincidence, or is this 1500 years ago, was it something that could only have been guessed by the divine? Okay, this one's quite easy. Anybody want to take a guess?
Is that to do with the atmosphere now is split between density?
Okay, that's what it is. Now, can anybody tell me the difference between that picture and that verse? Nobody. The only difference between this picture and this verse is that the picture was made in 2005, and the verse was revealed 1500 years ago. Okay, last verse. Anybody want to guess what this could mean? Yes, young man over there. You don't have to guess? No, okay. Okay, again, Nasser.
Yeah, is it the Pharaoh's body?
Pharaoh's body. Okay. So again, okay, let's say somebody, what actually happened is that when he was being drowned, Pharaoh, he was being drowned, he said that, okay, God, I finally believe that you exist, so please forgive me. God said, okay, we will save you, but only through your body. And we will make your body a sign for those to come after you. Now that's not a very easy prophecy to make. Because when you bury your body, or whatever you do with your body, body is actually a disease, and they actually corrode, and they disappear. They can get lost. That's one part of it. But if we look at Pharaoh's body today, not only was it saved from all those years ago in a preserved condition, but it is one of the only bodies in the whole world which has actually gone on international tour. It was in America. It was in the British National Museum. And today it's in Cairo, in the Mummy Museum. So it's been all over the world, and everybody has had a chance to see it. So again, was that a coincidence? Or was it something from beyond? Okay, moving on to something else new. I hope there's quite a few good observers over here, because I'm going to again ask somebody to just stand up and explain to me what they see in this picture. Any budding observers? Yes, young sir.
Lava?
Lava? I don't see.
That red thing.
Okay, that's not lava. Okay, first of all, I'll tell you this is actually the Grand Canyon in Arizona, okay? So, can anybody tell me from Jamia what is it? Samar, please.
I can see sky, clouds, mountains, greenery.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next picture. Can anybody please tell me what this? Okay, yes, sir.
A tree with fallen apples.
A tree with falling apples. Okay, thank you. And the last picture. Can anybody please explain to me what this is? Yes, young sir. Already.
A field with some trees and
Okay, that's fine. It's good. Okay, so all very good descriptions, but you missed something over here, and it's right in front of you, but nobody can see it. That's the problem. That's why you never said it. It was air. It's everywhere. Again, in this thing, you saw the apples falling, but you missed the cause, you missed the thing that was causing it, and that was gravity. And in this picture, beautiful day, nice greenery, but you missed the gamma radiation that could have killed you. So, the fact of the matter is that if you can't see something, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Okay. Now moving on from logic, let's look at some examples of people who have come by, and they have proved through their example that God does exist. And one of them, as we have mentioned, was the Prophet ﷺ. He came and said, God does still speak. There was a young boy called Abdul Karim, and he was going through a very painful situation. He actually had hydrophobia. At that time, there was no cure. And the doctors had given up, and they had sent a message to home saying that you should prepare for the worst. Now the family knew of the Prophet ﷺ, and they knew that he accepted prayers, and that his prayers were accepted. So they sent this young boy towards the Prophet ﷺ. And he prayed for him. A disease that could never be cured before was cured for the first time ever through the prayers of a man, Prophet ﷺ. Not through doctors, not through medicine, but through prayers. So again, we threw through example that there was a God and is one today. Again, now we see our present Khalifa. A man comes up to him and says, my son can't, he doesn't drink the milk of his mother. And the doctors don't know, again, the doctors don't know why. They can't do anything about it. What does Hazur go and do? He said, take this honey. And he fed the boy honey. And little do you know, the next day that man comes back crying with tears in his eyes and says, I can't believe it, for the first time in my life, this boy has drunk his mother's milk. Again, was that a coincidence, or what was it? Think about it yourself. And the last example which I can give you is of Muhammad Ishaq Sahib, where he had 3 daughters. He came to his house to stay. And when they were leaving, he had to give them something, as some money or something for them to take away with them. But at that time, he had no money whatsoever. But he was a man of God. So he turned towards God at night, prostration on the floor in sajda. And he said to God, that God, I need your help. I'm one of your people, I rely upon you. So he finished his prayers in the night, knowing that his prayer had been accepted. He rolled up his prayer mat, and underneath the prayer mat came out 3 freshly new 10 rupee notes. Now where did they come from? There wasn't a hole in the ground. But it was in fact a miracle. Something that which we cannot explain. The only explanation that we can give is that God does exist.
I think well, he made that true with, and made something make that come true.
Yes. Okay. So everything so far has told you that God should exist. But it has not told you that God definitely does exist. Because there is a huge difference. All this logic, everything, tells you that he should exist. But unless you've experienced God yourself, you've seen him yourself, you can't say that he does exist. So similarly, we know a man, or before I go into that bit. Okay. So we see in our lives, we put so much effort into our health, and our work, and our business. And a honeybee will go around in his life to 2 million flowers, collecting only half a teaspoon of honey. If that man had given up on the second day, saying that because I don't see any results after the second day, I do not believe that gym makes me stronger. If the honeybee gave up after 2 days, saying that because I didn't get any honey, I don't believe that this method creates any honey, then where would they have got to? The problem is that we can't give up so early when we're finding God. Because getting stronger, getting honey is only a small achievement. But the biggest achievement in the world is to attain God. Now how much effort do you think you need to put in towards that before you can even think about giving up? A man that we know, Hazrat Qutb Masih Dawud, when he was young, he was also at a stage where he knew that God should exist. But he really wanted to know for himself that he definitely does. So he was the man who took the step forward. And just like the way he puts effort into his studies, just like the way he put his effort into his sports, he started putting effort in towards finding God. And he started praying day and night without giving up. And he saw a dream where the whole universe proclaimed our God. That our God. And from that day on, he said that now I know that God does indeed exist. Now the thing is, I'm just going to leave you with one picture. That you can't give up. And this is the one you ponder on. That's the end of the presentation. So I'll leave you with that. Wa akhiru da'wana. And alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.